Okay, welcome to the final student presentations, WPI teams this year. Many of you have been before. I'm Dominic Golding, so I'm Centre Director, basically responsible for setting up the projects and all the logistics locally. So anyway, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, both in the audience here watching live on YouTube, and I believe we probably have some people watching on Zoom also. So for those of you that don't know about the program, maybe I can do a little recap. Worcester Polytechnic Institute, which is based in Worcester, Massachusetts, needless to say, has been doing project-based learning since about 1970. First started a project center in Washington, D.C., and then London. We now run 50 project centers around the world, one of which is Nantucket. They basically follow the same model wherever we go in the world, typically 18 to 24 students, 5 or 6 projects, and the students work with local organizations in those places where we go. And we go everywhere from Nantucket to places in South America. Our most recent project center just opened in Nepal. So we are all over the place. All of the students typically do these kinds of projects in their third year. So they're all juniors, and whilst most of our students are engineers or trained in technical areas, these projects are intentionally set up more as social science or policy. So it's outside their comfort zone. We're forcing them to do things that they don't ordinarily like to do. Anyway, so in Nantucket, we've been doing projects in Nantucket since 2008. We've conducted, 338 students since 2008 have conducted about 94 projects in Nantucket. And this is not going to work for me. Seth, can you do your magic over there? Okay, so that's the breakdown of the projects we've done in Nantucket. You can see we've done an awful lot of projects with various town departments, from town administration to DPW, the Nantucket Energy Office, all across the board, and various town committees also. We've done several projects with museums, the Whaling Museum, the Nantucket Historical Association, and the Maria Mitchell Association. I see Tony's in the audience somewhere. We'd love to do a project with the Shipwreck Museum, but we haven't managed to do it yet, so we're still working on that one. And we've done lots of projects with other non-profits on the island. So today you'll hear a project that the students did with Our House. Pauline Prosch and Favon Phillips are in the audience. But we've done projects with other non-profits, Remain, for example, the Linda Loring Foundation. I think Gail is in the audience, so we've done projects with Nantucket Lights. Did I get that right? Okay. So anyway, a wide range of topics and a wide range of groups that we work with. As with our other project centers around the world, the projects are driven by whatever the local concerns are. So as Centre Director, people approach me and say they're interested in doing a project with a student team. And so we try and set those up. So as I say, yeah, so they're led by local concerns. We're trying to generate data that will be useful to the organizations and the localities in which we work. We hope we've done that in Nantucket with the 94 projects that we've done in the last 17 years. As many of you know, I'm planning to step down in July as Centre Director, and whilst I'm stepping down, Seth's going to step up. So Seth Tula, who's my colleague here, been working with me on the island this term, is going to step into to my shoes, which could be difficult because his feet are a lot bigger than mine. Anyway, Seth, do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
So yes, I'm Seth Tuller. I've been at WPI for, can you hear me with the microphone here? Do I need to sit down? Okay. I've been at WPI since 2001, and I'm an associate professor in the same program as Dominic. While at WPI, I've advised lots of projects like this, as Dominic has, and I was the center director in Bangkok, Thailand for several years. And then I've been the center director setting up projects like these in Boston for the past 10 years as well. And now I'm poised to take over Dominic's smaller shoes, but he set a high bar for his projects and his integration into the community here and his wealth of knowledge about Nantucket. So I'm going to try. So thanks.
You're welcome. And Libby, I think you wanted to say something.
I don't want my back to you. Thank you so much. Just want to say a little bit about the program and Dominic specifically. While the WPI program more or less germinated, it did germinate on the island around 2008. Dominic came to town administration around 2010-ish with a firm plan in his mind for WPI students to undertake an annual semester on the island and conduct projects that could benefit the town and other Nantucket organizations. Since then, as we know, he has overseen at least 94 projects. And if he wasn't so persistently friendly and helpful, we probably would have said, can you please take this program elsewhere years ago? His understanding of our time and resources enabled us and WPI to keep the program alive and growing. It has become a community expectation, and people are always wanting to know, what are the WPI students doing this year? We keep a running list of potential projects ourselves. It doesn't hurt that Dominic has basically infiltrated Nantucket society and knows pretty much everyone and has been everywhere and knows everything. Most of what we try to tell him, he says, yeah, I already know that. Some remarks from WPI Associate Dean Kent Rissmiller say it all about Dominic's influence, or I guess influence and infiltration on Nantucket. I quote, Dominic has really adopted the island, and not just for the whale's tail beer from Cisco. He says that's most like the English ale from home that he can't find in the States. In addition to the beer, he's obviously walked, run, or biked nearly all of the place. So when we visited with him last year, we logged over 20,000 steps as he cheerfully showed us every historic building and landmark, there are many, lighthouse, cliff walk, and beer hall on the island. It was all worth it. A second note, you probably know that Dominic is an accomplished runner and cyclist, but in the past decade or so, running in Worcester County through the summer and fall would always leave him aching or injured in some way. That's hard to believe. So I thought it my responsibility to send him to Nantucket to rehabilitate, and he always did. There's a 5K in late November that he ran each year, and each year he was recovered and ready. This does sound so like an obituary a little bit, but it's not. He'd return in December, ready for a new year. Unfortunately, he's not quite as active as he used to be, but I think that he still seeks Nantucket in the fall as the place for a bit of rest and rehab. So maybe keep an eye out for him after his retirement. So Dominic, thank you for creating this amazing program. It has benefited so many local organizations, including the town of Nantucket. Your efforts are sincerely appreciated, and while you may be on to other ventures, your legacy will continue, and I'm sure you will resurface on the island from time to time. At least we certainly hope so. And we definitely look forward to Seth's oversight of the program, and I don't know if anybody can infiltrate as well as you have, but he can give it a try. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, I wasn't
Before-
expecting
no.
that, but thank you, Libby. It's been a pleasure to have worked with all of you over the years, many years. I have gotten to know a lot of people quite well. I love the island. And even though Seth's taking over the logistical stuff, I hope I'll come back and visit on a pretty regular basis. Thank you. So to get to our presentations.
Just one more moment, please.
Oh.
Yes. So, While folks here have expressed their appreciation for all that you've done here, we'd like to share some congratulations from some other people that you've influenced over the course of the last 10 or 15 years. So I have to set something up. Give me a second. What do I do here? Let's do that. Is this the full screen thing? Yes. Okay. I have to share screen is. Oh.
Is this going to be embarrassing, Seth?
Yeah, well, it's embarrassing for me to get this set up because where do I? Yeah.
It's on your computer.
Oh,
So you go to more,
oh, got it. See that?
share,
Share. Thank you. Screen two.
make sure you check those two things, share sound, optimize for please.
Okay, now I'm going here. Share.
Bottom left corner.
Hi, Professor. Congratulations on your retirement. I want to thank you for everything you've done for myself and for my team while I was on IQP. I am going to be sad to see you go, but I would like to wish you the best.
Hi, Dominic. Best wishes as you glide toward retirement. Congratulations on all of your accomplishments, and thanks for your contributions. I'll never forget our wonderful 2 months together advising in Nantucket, and you made advising in London a dream for us. Best wishes and cheers.
Dominic, you're the last person I advised with. I can imagine a lot of reasons for that. But I'll tell you, man, you taught me, very honestly, you taught me more about teaching than anybody I know. And even more important, you taught me about living a good life. And I'll miss you. I thank you and I congratulate you.
Hi, Professor Golding. This is Justin Yep. Congrats on your upcoming retirement, and thank you for everything.
Hi, Dominic. Just wanted to say congratulations on your retirement. Thank you for being an amazing advisor my time here at WPI and for making IQP such an unforgettable experience. Wishing you the best of luck in retirement.
Hey there, Mr. Dominic. Thank you for all the help you've given us back when we were on Nantucket in the Lights Project. Happy retirement.
Hi, Professor Golding. I just wanted to say thank you for all you did last year and congratulations on your retirement.
Hi, Dominic. Thanks for everything you've done with your time at WPI. I often find myself reminiscing about how much I enjoyed my time on Nantucket with you and Bruce as our advisors. I'll always remember our fun bike rides outside and dinner at the Brotherhood of Thieves. Congratulations, and I wish you the best in retirement.
Hey, Dominic. Thanks for all you've done in Nantucket, in London, in Worcester, and around the world to create wonderful opportunities for students, advisors, local partners. Happy retirement.
Hey, Dominic, sending you a big congratulations from Kyoto. We know everyone in Nantucket's going to miss you, but not more than everyone in Diggs.
Girl, you have been such an asset to such a great number of students at this university. Happy retirement.
Happy retirement.
Happy retirement, congrats.
Hey, Dominic. You know, when I first came to WPI as provost 10 years ago and we first met, I knew I wanted to work with you, and man, was I right. Just want to thank you for teaching me so much about the IQP process, about Nantucket, about London, and just about life in general. Just a blast working with you. Just want to wish you and Claire all the best going into the future. We're going to miss you at WPI, my friend. Take care.
Hi, Dominic. We just wanted to say we're really happy for you for your retirement. We really enjoyed working with you last year. I know for me personally, it was one of my best experiences is WPI, and we're just very grateful for you. So good luck and have a great retirement.
Hi, Dominic. Thanks for making our time on Nantucket go as smoothly as possible, and congratulations on retiring.
Hi, Dominic. Thank you for teaching us how to make presentations that don't suck, and also for all of the many bike rides and tours around Nantucket. And now it is your turn to ride into the sunset. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on retirement! Congratulations, Dominic, on your retirement. We had a great time on Nantucket, and thank you for being such an amazing advisor.
Mazel tov.
Well, thank you, one and all. Yep, didn't expect that at all. I guess I have to retire now, don't I? So now our schedule's entirely blown. We'll move on to the first presentation. So Abigail, Lewis, and Hope are going to tell us about the project that they did with Pauline Proche and Yvonne Phillips at our house. Oh, sorry. Yes.
You can see it on the monitor? Yeah. Yeah. Is the mic working okay? Yeah, perfect. Right. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are the WPI Student Research Team. My name is Luis Sanchez.
I'm Abigail Luftig. And I'm Hope Sherman.
And our project is titled Understanding the Needs of Nantucket Youth. To begin, we'd like to introduce our sponsor, Our House. Our House is a nonprofit organization that provides a safe and nurturing environment for high school-aged teenagers. This distinction is important to make because there are other organizations on the island. However, those cater towards ages, for example, 6th grade all the way to 12th grade. And Our House really focuses in on this demographic of high school, which is crucial right before they reach mature adulthood. Given this, Our House can provide both recreational and professional support. Recreational in terms of letting the students rest after a long day of school, or letting them play pool or outside in the tennis or basketball courts. Our House can also provide and does also provide professional support in terms of job placement support and college application help. Another thing that truly makes Our House so special is the dinner that they serve 3 times a week. This is truly a beautiful and special moment in which the students and the mentors can really sit down around the table together, share a meal, and break down barriers. Our House is led by Executive Director Pauline Proche and Youth Outreach Mentor Yvonne Phillips.
A place like Our House is very significant by it gives teens support, connection, and just stability in general here on the island. Across the US, teens face a lot of challenges. This includes anxiety, depression, substance abuse, bullying, and environmental stressors. With that in mind, Nantucket as a whole, this can become very intense for teens. We know that isolation and loneliness, especially in the wintertime, affect teens here, as well as facing housing and food insecurity. Not only that, Nantucket as a whole lacks a lot of third spaces for teens to go to, which a third space is a space where people can go to kind of just connect and engage with others that's not their home or work.
The overall goal of our project specifically was to evaluate how Our House might improve its operations, programs, and facilities to better meet the needs of its clients. We did this through 3 main objectives. Our first objective was to determine stakeholder opinions from relevant stakeholders within the community. We also evaluated Our House clientele's perceptions on how Our House is currently running. And then we assessed high school student opinions on what programs and opportunities might entice them to further utilize Our House's programming. We accomplished these objectives through 3 primary methods.
Our first method was to determine stakeholder opinion. With that in mind, we want to get a wide variety of what people on the island thought teens wanted. For that reason, we interviewed 3 Our House alumni as well as 8 other youth serving organizations. This included the Mariah Mitchell Association, the Nantucket Historical Association, the Community School, the Community Foundation for Nantucket, the Boys and Girls Club, the Safe Place, and Human Health Services Department. Within these interviews, we found very consistent themes. With that in mind, we had 4 big ones. This included the lack of accessible spaces for teens to go to, especially after school, as well as sports tending to dominate teen life here, which made it very hard for those students who had niche interest. Not only that, we found that teen voices weren't really heard, especially in community decisions, but not only that, there is a lot of stigma around the programs here on the island, especially mental health for students to use. Our next method was that we conducted a high school-wide questionnaire within the Nantucket Public High School. Our first job here was to get parental consent, which we did via working closely with the high school principal to send emails to parents of students. We also provided an incentive for students to participate in our survey, which was that if they took it, they were able to put their name in a gift card raffle. We also had 4 main types of questions. These questions included after-school activities, current programs on the island, our house perceptions and knowledge, and then general demographics. We were able to obtain 52 student responses, and you can see in our chart here that we had a fairly even distribution between the grades.
Another way in which we aim to obtain data, but rather qualitatively, is through informal discussions called focus group. A focus group is essentially, as this picture very well represents, us sitting down on the table around with the high school students and simply having a conversation with them. This gave us the ability to ask questions that we were unable to ask them in the questionnaire. The biggest challenge that we believe that we faced in this entire project was obtaining that parental consent. That's why we are so grateful for everybody that has helped us overcome that barrier. A huge incentive that we used was food and drinks during the focus groups. We really hoped that this would incentivize the students to ask their parents to give them parental consent to take part in our focus group, because after all, who doesn't like free food? In terms of the actual focus groups, we had 3 in total. We had one at the high school with 17 students, which is a number far larger than what we expected, and we are very grateful for. And at our house, we had 2 separate groups, each with 7 students.
Using the data that we collected from both interviews, focus groups, and surveys, we found there to be very consistent themes. With that in mind, we're going to share our 6 main ones. The first one was the lack of accessible third spaces for teens to go to, whether it was just getting to the program itself or just it being welcoming. Not only that, we found that students want more programming. A lot of the programs now are very focused on sports. With that, most students said that they want more in-school programming that focuses on academics and both their creative and socialist interest. Not only that, there's still a lot of issues with stigma here on the island, whether it just be towards mental health, asking for help, or just in general using the resources here provided to them. We also found that certain groups of teens faced more additional barriers. This included immigrant teens, introverted teens, as well as those facing financial stressors. Together as a whole though, all the teens felt like most of their voices aren't being heard, especially in community decisions, but not even in places where you think they would be heard like school. Lastly, we found that a lot of the students here do know about Our House, but not the wide variety of programs that Our House does offer to them. With that, this led to our recommendations. However, we're only going to share a set of our recommendations. If you want to see our full list of recommendations, please see our full report. So our first recommendation was for Our House specifically. We would encourage them to create a student ambassador program. What this means is have a position where students have to apply and interview to hold a leadership opportunity within Our House. This would help to, as Hope just stated, elevate the teen voices so they feel like there is a space where they are heard in the community and that their voice contributes to important decision-making processes. This would also help to reduce stigma because students will see their peers holding these positions and be encouraged to participate in things that they otherwise might not have felt comfortable doing. This would also improve the outreach because as teens are encouraged to help with planning events and spreading knowledge, they will begin to tell their peers, families, and community members about their programming at Our House and what they're involved in.
Second recommendation that we would like to give Our House is to improve its mentorship opportunities. Here, it's important to make a distinction between tutoring and mentoring. Tutoring is sitting down face-to-face somebody and giving direct instructions on how to complete something. Tutoring is also much more academically inclined. Mentoring, on the other hand, is much broader and teaches life values, and it's more about guidance rather than giving direct instructions. A good way that our house can do this is to increase its non-teacher staff. This really opens the door for our house to welcome back its alumni, and that alumni can be mentors to the current Our House students. And now those Our House students have somebody to look up to as role models and really think, hey, they were once in my shoes at some point. Another way that Our House can increase its mentorship opportunities is to increase the peer-to-peer mentorship. Going back to the student ambassador program that Abigail mentioned, Our House can really use the student ambassadors to be mentors to the other students there. Our house can also improve its outreach by involving the National Honor Society students at the Nantucket High School in order to welcome them and let them use the facility of our house as a place where they can mentor or even tutor the students that may need it.
Our third recommendation is for our house to obtain a larger van. One of the things we found both in interviews and from the students in the survey is that transportation is a big barrier for them not attending programs. With that in mind, our house already kind of tailors to this. Our house last year provided over 2,400 rides to students, whether it be picking them up, dropping them off, or bringing them to an appointment or another special event that they needed to go to. With that in mind, obtaining a larger van will help our house give more rides while also improve their outreach. We heard in focus groups that students who don't typically go to our house are reluctant to go to begin with because they see that the van is overcrowded and they assume that our house is crowded itself, which most of the time is not the case. So having both vans will allow for them to give more rides at the same time and reduce the stigma that the vans are overcrowded and the houses.
Our next recommendation is for both our house, but also collaborating with the high school. That would be to collaborate with high school sports teams. We found from the questionnaire that about 80% of the students who responded were participants in either sports or after-school clubs. Our house already has provided dinner nights for sports teams, but one of the barriers we found was that it can often be difficult for students to plan what houses, what meals, and what goes into nights for their sports teams. This would provide a leadership opportunity for our house to collaborate directly with high school sports team captains to set up dinner and event nights at our house, which would also increase the understanding of what goes on at our house and what its facilities and programming entails to. This would encourage students to attend our house on nights that maybe aren't specific to their sports team dinners. In addition to this, we also heard from students during our focus group sessions that many of them experience stressors due to traveling off island for sporting events. This was due to the fact that there wasn't a lot of time in school to make up exams or project work, and often led to more stress after school. We would encourage sports team captains working with the school and working with our house to help build study hall times into sports teams practices. Students already set aside time in their week to attend these practices, and because the students are already at these locations, it would be beneficial to provide them with time to complete tests or any homework that they didn't fulfill. One of the important quotes that we've heard was, "You have to be a student before you're an athlete." It's very important to hone in on students' academics to help them prepare for their futures.
Going on a much broader scale, we'd like to recommend to Nantucket as a whole to create a community board for stronger collaboration. There used to be something similar that existed, which was called ACT Teen, in which the directors of nonprofit organizations would meet together once a month and discuss about what they think that the teenagers want. However, a big caveat about this is that there were no teenagers present in that conversation about them. We strongly recommend not to reinstate it, but rather use it as a template to create an even stronger board with stronger collaboration, this time including teenagers to really elevate their voices and provide those leadership opportunities. Going back to that student ambassador program, our house can really take advantage of this to really elevate these teenager voices.
Our sixth recommendation and our last that we're sharing today is adding light to the skate park. We've mentioned multiple times now that there is a lack of third spaces here, especially for teens to go to. However, the skate park is already a third space that the teens do use here. However, when it gets dark, especially in the winter, the park becomes unusable for these teens. With that in mind, adding the lights will allow for extended use of hours for the teens, as well as improving a safer environment. And the kids do not need transportation to get here or use money to use the park, so it's really beneficial and doesn't add additional barriers. With that in mind though, however, putting lighting in the skate park is going to take support from the community as well as collaboration with National Grid and the DPW Parks and Recreation Department.
To conclude, we found from the survey, focus groups, and from interviews within the community that our house is meeting the needs of its current teens. However, we do feel in the future that our house can play an even bigger role in meeting the needs of more teens across the island. Our recommendations here today serve to empower teens, create more opportunities, and help prepare them for their futures.
Before we end, we'd like to give a huge thank you to everybody that put us here where we are today. From our house, a huge thank you to Pauline Proch and Furban Phillips for being our guides and our mentors throughout all of this. And a huge thank you to the Our House teens. They have essentially been co-researchers with us every step of the way. We'd like to thank all of the interviewees that are listed up on the board. Thank you for your insight. And we'd also extend a huge and special thank you to the high school, especially the principal, Mandy Hylam, for being that connection between us and the high school students and being the bridge between us and their parents. And last but not least, we'd like to thank the Nantucket High School Whalers for taking part in our survey and taking part in our focus group. Again, we would not be where we are today without all of them. Now, before we conclude, we'd like to leave all of you with a phrase that a student shared with us. I feel like Nantucket values more about what tourists want on the island and what full-grown adults want than the younger generations. Nantucket, you are beautifully diverse. It's time for all of us to really work together and empower all voices, regardless of demographic and regardless of age, to build a better Nantucket for everyone. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
And please, I didn't say before, if you have questions, you can come forward to one of the microphones, either over there or here. And Seth is monitoring the Zoom conversation, so if we have any questions from there, we can bring those in as well. So please, feel free to come forward and ask any questions you want to ask. And I'm sure Gail probably has something to say about lighting the skate park too.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pauline Proch, Executive Director of Our House. That was a tremendous presentation. Thank you. I'm wondering, throughout your time working on Nantucket, if there was anything that was a big surprise to you that you found different on Nantucket than where all three of you grew up.
I think one of the biggest things is we mentioned a lot in our presentation, the absence of third spaces. If I think about like my own childhood or growing up, hanging out with friends, you go to malls, you go to like indoor sports places, things that are not accessible on Nantucket and may be difficult to in-state here. So it can be difficult for teens to find these spaces to just hang out and be teens. And one of the most interesting results from our focus group sessions was we asked every single teen present, how many of you feel bored in the summer? 0 hands. Everyone has so much to do. And we switched up the question and said, how many of you are bored in the winter? And almost every single hand raised. So it's really interesting just to think about some of the opportunities that aren't here just because of the fact that it is an island and doesn't have some of those spaces.
In terms of, for me, the biggest surprise that I'd say, and like I mentioned, I grew up in the city. I am from Worcester, so it was very like much bustling. So coming here to Nantucket, experiencing, you know, a sort of peace and a sort of quiet is something that maybe the Nantucketers might take for granted, I feel like, because it's something that's truly special, something that I don't live with on a day-to-day basis. However, in one of the discussions that we did here is we asked a teen, hey, you have $1 million. What would you like to see on Nantucket? And they said a go-kart facility. No, so these teenagers, you know, they really want more things and they want more stuff to do here. However, there are big hurdles to jump, especially with the Nantucket Historical Association. You know, a lot of the things that the teenagers want is truly modern, and that might not be exactly what the Nantucket ambience really wants to go for.
Not really shocking, but very like interesting was how much of the freshmen were really academically driven. Like they were talking about how they wish there was more AP offered, which I found very interesting because not most people in 9th grade are very driven to take those extra classes and really wanting to bump up their grades.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Gail Walker. I'm the president and founder of Nantucket Lights, which is the citizen advocacy group advocating for responsible outdoor lighting to reduce light pollution and preserve our starry nights. And I'm put on the spot by Dominic, so I feel like I should just say something to make sure everybody understands. We are not against adding lighting to the skateboard area or skate park area or any area. We just want responsible lighting, which if you look at your fellow students' projects in the past for on light pollution. It just means lighting that's directed down at the right color temperature, the correct brightness level. So I just wanted to make it clear that we're not opposed to it. I just wish your presentation had said dark sky friendly. That's the theme here. But I'm happy to say the town, DPW, the whole community is on board with this idea. So I'm sure it'll, they might look at your requests or your recommendation favorably. I know they're planning some dark sky friendly lighting at the high school field when it's renovated. So I'm sure the whole theme will carry over to the park. So thank you for your presentation. It was very good.
Thank you for your question. Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Seth, do we have any questions online?
No.
All right. I guess if there's no more questions, we'll move on to our next presentation. But thank you, guys. Upgraded. So maybe Erin, Shane, everybody else, Ryan and Xander, if you would come forward. They've been working with Leah Mosher, the founder of the Nantucket Litter Derby, and they've been looking at the issue of littering on Nantucket.
It's good. Yeah.
Wait.
Now it's good, Sharon. Thank you.
All right. So our project is tackling intentional and unintentional littering on Nantucket. Our sponsor for this project is Leah Mohair, who is the founder of the Nantucket Litter Derby. I'm Aaron Bonsey.
I'm Shane Gardner.
I'm Xander Barker.
And I'm Ryan Aggie.
Just clicking on it.
All right. While some residents may feel as if litter is not a huge issue on the island, here's the data from the past 6 annual Nantucket Litter Derby events that show the real extent. As you can see in the chart above, there's 30,000 pounds of litter that was collected just this year, with over 2,000 of it being hazardous waste. The goal of our project is to develop a set of actionable recommendations to help deter littering that adjust changes in community outreach, policies, infrastructure, and engagement. I think you clicked off it again. All right. Our project objectives were to evaluate the opinions of stakeholders on Nantucket and to identify the policies and practices used in other communities to help deter litter.
In doing this, we narrowed it down to 5 major issues, being uncovered loads, alcohol containers, illegal dumping, construction waste, and downtown trash barrels.
To help us reach these conclusions, we conducted interviews with 15 different Nantucket stakeholders to solicit their opinions. Through this, we were able to get a good view of what some of the key issues on the island were related to litter, as well as seeing a lot of overarching themes across these issues. Issues like uncovered loads, construction waste, and alcohol litter were all of the biggest topics that we saw that were specific to key issues. Among this, though, issues both of awareness and enforcement of litter-related issues were very broad topics that were also mentioned frequently as well. Uncovered loads were our most frequently mentioned topic with interviewees, with 10 of our 15 interviewees listing it as a key issue. Notably, with our conversation with the DPW, several members mentioned that they believed it was the biggest issue related to on the island related to litter as well. The issue of construction debris revolves around trucks not adequately securing their loads, resulting in them falling off and onto the road, creating roadside litter. Some of the common debris that has been complained about related to uncovered loads include landscaping debris, trash and household waste, and construction debris. 8 of our 15 interviewees also noted that landscaping debris was a key issue specifically tied to uncovered loads as well. One of the big issues that is connected to uncovered loads has been a lack of clear messaging and awareness regarding around the laws. While there are some mechanisms in place to make sure that residents are aware of the laws, including some messages from the landfill and the occasional town manager e-newsletter mentioning uncovered loads, there have not been many solid mechanisms in place to make sure drivers are adequately aware of the laws. One of the other notable things is there is currently no signage on the island specifically tailored to uncovered loads and making sure that drivers are remembering to cover their loads securely. For us to gain our own perspective on uncovered loads on the island, we went to the dump for a 2-hour period on a busy Friday to see what we commonly saw. We were able to identify some of the different coverages of trucks at the dump and some of the key items that were usually being contained. Through this, we were able to identify that 55% of trucks did not have any security on their loads, with 45% of them having some security. Of this, 27% had their loads secured with just a tarp or just a strap, while 18% were secured with both a tarp and a strap. Through this, we were also able to identify some of the commonly contained items in these trucks, with being landscaper trimmings, backing up what we learned from our interviews, as well as residential trash, and also tools and equipment that people were carrying. Some of the possible solutions that we came across regarding uncovered loads came from increasing both the awareness and the enforcement. For increasing awareness, the lack of signage was a notable topic with several interviewees. The addition of signage in key areas along Nantucket Road and at the dump could go a long way in making sure that drivers are adequately aware of the laws and making sure that they know what is expected of them when they go out to drop off trash. In addition to this, the addition of a messaging to make sure that drivers are aware of the laws before they even go out on the road would be helpful in decreasing this problem as well. One of the other notable things that came across interviewees was making sure that people are adequately aware of the sites that they can go to report litter. There are several of these in place on the island, one of the notable ones being from the DPW, where there are several options of contacting them through a phone or email or through using their Click and Fix website. In the roughly 20 years that the Click and Fix has been used, there's been 7,500 reports, but of that, only 16 of them have actually been specifically for litter. So increasing the awareness of the DPW Click and Fix site as a source to report litter could help identify some other key sites where litter may be present. With this, there's also the complaint form on the Nantucket website where litter is reported as well. One of the other topics was with increasing enforcement, and there were several innovative approaches that we came across. One of the ones that we found that was incredibly interesting was in Grand Island, Nebraska, where at their dump, they would increase the disposal fee of items at the dump of $10 if someone arrived with an unsecured load, but in return, they would be provided with a coverage tarp so that they could remember to cover their load in the future. This was an innovative idea that makes both awareness and enforcement and could be something to consider.
Alcohol container littering on Nantucket. 7 out of our 15 interviewees mentioned how alcohol containers such as cans and bottles are among the most common litter items on Nantucket. The graph on this slide shows the past 3 Nantucket litter derbies of the total weight collected between those cans and bottles. By doing our research, we found that there are limited redemption options as well as a lack of trash bins across the island, which makes it so that alcohol container littering is a recurring issue. We have 3 possible solutions. Our first being improving infrastructure. This would be adding more recycle bins in high traffic locations such as beaches, ferry terminals, as well as parking lots, as well as installing more reverse redemption machines at convenient locations across the island. Our second possible solution is education and public awareness. A few examples of public awareness are Don't Trash the Ocean in Rhode Island and Keep Tahoe Blue, which are highly visible campaigns that have been proven to deter litter. Our third possible solution is building community partnerships. An example of a community partnership is the Litter Free Falmouth Group, which has grown nearly 300 volunteers through local businesses and organizations. Illegal dumping. 4 out of our 15 interviewees mentioned how illegal dumping is a yet smaller but an ongoing concern. With doing our interviews, we have found out that there are known illegal dumping sites, such as areas within the state forest. The reason for illegal dumping is that people are unaware of the waive fees at the dump. As you can see on this slide are the tipping fees. And if you look under residents, the highlighted areas are all free, such as TV monitors, appliances, tires, certain furniture, as well as mattresses.
Our solution to this is rather simple: installing surveillance cameras. These are affordable, come in wireless and solar-powered options, and have shown to be effective in places they have been utilized, such as Seattle and the Nantucket Land Bank. The only drawbacks being that somebody needs to monitor them.
Out of the 15 interviews we conducted, 7 people believe that construction waste not being properly handled contributed to the litter issue on Nantucket. There's constant construction year-round, especially during the off-season when downtown restrictions are lifted. And several of our interviewees even mentioned that they personally witnessed debris blowing out of overflowing dumpsters. There are high winds on Nantucket, so small debris can easily escape and become litter. One potential solution is for Nantucket to adopt a bylaw requiring dumpsters to be covered during non-working hours. We have already seen this through other towns and cities in Massachusetts, including Boston, Cambridge, and Maynard. They all enforce these through inspections and fines, and Nantucket could use a similar process since they already have frequent inspections.
Of the topics that we discussed with our 15 interviewees, the trash barrels in downtown seem to be the most controversial. Their lids especially. They are unsanitary, easily blown away by winds, and in some cases completely illegible. Our solution to this would be having better signage in order to tell people what goes where and what will happen if they do not use them properly. Additionally, this is already being considered, having latches to keep the lids from flying off of the barrels entirely. And our last solution to this would be to test out new bin designs in pilot programs to see what the town likes and what they don't like.
For our recommendations. Our first recommendation is public awareness and education. A major theme that came up during interviews and by doing our research is that many residents and visitors are simply unaware of how serious the litter issue is on Nantucket. A few examples of awareness and education are public messaging campaigns such as Don't Trash the Ocean in Rhode Island, Keep Tahoe Blue, as well as the Litter Free Falmouth Group. Education in schools could also play a major role in improving how people think about litter and what they should be doing about it. Our second recommendation is to add more reverse redemption machines across the island in many convenient locations.
Our third recommendation is for Nantucket to promote proper construction waste management by adopting a bylaw requiring construction dumpsters to be covered during non-working hours. Nantucket should develop an enforcement strategy through inspections and fines and should conduct proper contractor education on this bylaw.
Our fourth solution revolves around creating pilot programs to help increase the awareness regarding uncovered loads. This could come through many different ways, one of which would be adding signage along Nantucket Road and at the dump, where there's currently none, to help make sure drivers are adequately aware of the laws. One of which is through making sure that the message is getting out to haulers and contractors before they even go out on the road, so they don't make that mistake. And through trying a strategy at the dump related to tarps to hopefully create an opportunity for drivers to create a better decision while they're there.
Our fifth solution would be to install cameras and security in known illegal dumping sites. And our last solution would be to launch a pilot program to test out new designs for the trash barrels.
We would like to thank our sponsor, Liam O'Hare, and everyone else who has taken their time to be interviewed throughout this project. Thank you.
If anyone has a question, please come forward. Go ahead. Yes, please. We have to be able to hear what you've got to say on the recording.
So it may be obvious, but what's a reverse recycle bin?
So a reverse redemption machine is where you return your bottles in and you get a ticket or money out.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be you put your bottles in.
Take the ticket where?
You can take it inside, say the local Stop and Shop, and you'd like redeem it.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Questions online, sir? No, there are no questions online.
Erin, I'm wondering if you could tell us about your favorite program that I don't think came up in any of your recommendations.
Oh, I can talk about that quick. So there is a current program, and it's not in Massachusetts yet, but it's called Clink. It is where I actually do this at home in New York. So it's where instead of taking all your bottles to a reverse redemption machine or redemption machines across the island, Clink is a organization where it is a green trash bag, and you throw all your cans and bottles into this one bag, and you put it into a chute at, like, say, a Stop and Shop, or we have Hannaford's. But there's a chute, you put it in, you scan a ticket on the bag, and you don't have to touch any of the bottles. You throw it in, you get a ticket, and you end up getting money from that.
And the benefit of that is?
You don't have to touch the bottles. It's easier and faster.
You don't have to sort all
Yeah, you don't have to
stuff
sort
into
through.
bottles
Yeah.
and
You just throw them all in one bag.
other comments or questions? Rachel?
Hi, everyone. You had a slide that showed a very, I don't know what the word is, but it's like a very progressive policy about disposal of things like TVs and mattresses that you can dispose them for free.
Yeah.
But I noticed that that wasn't part of your recommendations about raising awareness of that. And, like if I knew that I could dispose of a mattress for free, because I have to pay for it in my town, which makes me more likely to leave it by the curb at my house. So was there any consideration of raising awareness of what is free to dispose?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly shown in this presentation, but in our final report, we did cover a lot of the different topics that we believed should have awareness raised about on the island. Some of this has come through you mentioned, with increasing the awareness of the ability to dispose of a lot of free things at the dump, because there is a lot of those benefits. And we do know that I believe the landfill is working on creating a new website, which should help raise awareness for what is free to dispose or not. That's something that was raised in one of our earlier interviews. And with that kind of talking about the awareness, we did have specific things that we believed were good to mention. We didn't exactly put them in with some of the other topics, but there are a lot of different key things related to awareness that we do believe can be raised, especially with visitors when they come on the island, making sure that they are aware of the rules and what is expected of them here, because obviously Nantucket has very high standards and there's a very certain aesthetic here. Making sure that they're all aware of what is expected of them here with the disposal of trash is notable. Something, honestly, with me that I was surprised when I learned about the island is with recycling. If there is like pieces of cardboard here that have a lot of messaging on them, or like how a lot of heavy ink and printing, they can't be disposed of in that way. And that's something that I would not have really known about if someone hadn't told me. So some stuff like that, where just awareness of how you should properly dispose of trash would be something that would be really useful here.
Thanks.
Hi, did you find out anything about student participation in the litter derby, as in high school or middle school or even elementary school?
We did, on the specific numbers of students who were participating in the derbies, I don't think we ever got a specific number, but we did have a conversation with the Nantucket High School's Environmental Club and learned more about what they do. And we learned that they do have their own, not scheduled, but whenever all the students are available, they would go out and they would participate in cleanup, similar to how the Nantucket Clean Team does, and like the Sconset Clean Teams and other clean team groups on the island. But they don't have a structure for it, but we have learned that that environmental group is a key part of kind of raising awareness for students at the high school.
But it doesn't go both ways. That is, the litter derby doesn't embrace the idea of involving younger students. Just think, I mean, this could be a wintertime thing. It would fight boredom.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That could be another recommendation possibly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just feel like the earlier you involve people in being sensitized to the fact that throwing things on the ground or out your window or leaving them behind or having them fall out of your pocket is a blight and not something that you want to do. And the earlier you can get them involved in that, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
If I can chime in, I believe Leah did say that for the Litter Derby, she signs off on a number of forms, basically signing off on community service numbers for students. So there obviously are numbers that get involved.
Having participated in a number of litter derbies, it's amazing how much is collected and your numbers and volumes speak volumes. What I'm always astonished by is not so much the litter, but the unwillingness or lack of education across the island, and particularly from visitors, that they actually do have to recycle. And, you know, I think that if there were to be an educational component to the amount of trash that's generated on the island, it could start with realtors who are renting out houses to many of their tenants who simply don't know that they need to sort their trash. I think when you go on a Saturday or Sunday and you see how diligently people are putting the right trash in the right chutes, and those wonderful workers out there are making sure that things are being done properly, is testament to the community aspect of, you know, like it's a social event going to the dump. But I think the Litter Derby is one of the great traditions that Leah and Graham created here. And I think at least 2 years in a row, it was a high school team that won the championship. So kids are getting involved, and I think it's great, but we have so much more to do. And I think this is a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Dominic, I have 2 online.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna unmute Neil. Just allow you to talk and please share your question.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay, so I'm Neil Ryan. I'm the founder and director of Keep Massachusetts Beautiful. And I did speak with the students in regard to illegal dumping. I just wanted to make the comment, these are all great recommendations, and I just have one additional recommendation, which is to consider launching a local chapter of Keep Massachusetts Beautiful. We've got 45 local chapters around the state. The closest to you guys is Keep Barnstable Beautiful. But our local chapters focus on all of these issues that you're talking about, and are part of a large network of communities across the state that are facing similar challenges. And we've got several programs that directly address many of the problems that are being discussed today. And also, just from a branding perspective, it's a message when people hear Keep Nantucket Beautiful. Most people can get behind that. Not too many people are going to be opposed to that kind of idea. So I just throw that out there, and I did put a link in the chat for anyone who wants to check out our website and reach out to me for any more information. So thank you.
Thank you. Also, there's a chat message here from Leah, who's away, but she's listening in, that says something about they do involve high school students, and she's signed, as Dominic said, she signs off on their community service requirements. Also, we have one more from Anne. I'm gonna unmute you so you can ask your question as well. Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciated your presentation. I'm sorry I didn't meet you guys. I was actually on Nantucket when you were there. I've been a member of the clean team for somewhere between 15 and 20 years. It's almost embarrassing because I'm an old person now. So I would like to give a shout out to the clean team. It's not just the litter derby that keeps the island clean. And I'm sure you did hear from some of the clean team people about the challenges we face week in and week out. One thing that I think is appreciated, which I have tried to address, is the contribution to litter of the town itself. For instance, confetti. When we go up Main Street for the whatever homecoming or for graduation, I wrote to the head of the public schools to say, gee, you know, there are alternatives to paper confetti that you could consider. I never heard anything back. But I think true awareness is absolutely critical. I would love to see posters on the ferries. I would love to see posters at the airports. I would love to see a more aggressive distribution of a chart that I keep scotch taped right next to my bins in my house that gives a very clear graphic of what all goes in what kind of different bins. And I refer to it all the time. I think it could actually even be more detailed. But the whole public outreach, I think, is important because people really don't understand. And I also just want to remind you that a certain amount of the alcohol container litter is a function of underage drinking, and people don't want to get caught with cans or bottles in their car. So if we could help solve the underage drinking problem, that would be a contribution as well. At any rate, thank you very much for your presentation, for your time, for your thinking. I think there's some great ideas, and let's get it out there and keep it clean.
Thanks, Anne. I'm wondering if you guys want to say anything. In your report, you have something about your interviews with folks at Highline and other places about.
Yeah, so we did mentioning with actually Simon Ferries, we did have a conversation within Highline Ferries to see what they could potentially do to help deterring littering. And through this, we raised some potential topics such as putting signage on the TVs, mentioning things over the loudspeaker, or just signage. Some of the ideas they said likely would not be possible, but they did say that there are definitely some possibilities with signage that could be considered to help increase the awareness of litter. And it seems like a widespread kind of awareness campaign involving a lot of parts of the town would go a long way to helping make sure that litter is effectively being dealt with on the island, because it's not a problem that any one group can solve on their own.
Hi, my name is Mary Bergman. I thought this was a great presentation. One thing as people are talking, I like Posey's point about feeling shamed at the dump, so you're going to do the right thing, which definitely plays a factor in my sorting of my trash. And I do think, what do you do when you have such a huge transient population that's here to relax and they don't want to think about putting their waste into 4 different waste streams? But as we're talking about what sort of like visual identity we could use to draw awareness to this problem, I think in particular of that poster about the Nantucket wildflowers, which some people may know I'm talking about it. The phrase was, if picked or uprooted, these beautiful flowers will disappear. And I remember that because it is such a handsome, image of Nantucket's wildflowers. So I could imagine something sort of like really beautiful that shows, like the weight of having this trash in our island. One thing I think about too is like if we had to actually like live with this trash, we send so much of it off island. We have these beautiful open space parks. So anyway, it's a huge challenge, but it sounds like we need someone to think up a good slogan and come up with some branding next. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for all your questions. Thank you, team, for your presentation. I think we have to move on now. I think it's Caleb, Sean, Jacob, and Elias who've been working with Dylan Metch Emples at Housing Nantucket Housing Department on
Takes me a while.
unlocking housing potential.
Did they get it last time?
Big green button in the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, we are the WPI housing team. We worked with the Nantucket Housing Department on our project Unlocking Housing Potential, Adaptive Reuse of Upper Story Space in downtown Nantucket. My name is Elias Hanford.
I'm Jacob Boyle. I'm Caleb Corpuz. And I'm Sean Smith. Can you click on it?
Nantucket's housing crisis is particularly severe. This partially owes to tourism, as around 60% of homes on the island are occupied by seasonal residents. And this drives up housing prices, as you can see in the chart. The median home sale price went from 1.5 million in 2014 to 3.7 million in 2024. And additionally, new construction is difficult. Under 6% of land on the island is developable. The rest is either ecologically preserved or is already developed. And there's also some public opposition to some new developments.
You clicked out of it.
I have. Try it again. Yeah.
Our sponsors, Dylan and Christy from the Nantucket Housing Department, work to create policies and programs that encourage affordable and attainable housing on the island. They work with the Affordable Housing Trust, another town organization, as well as nonprofits on the island to implement these policies. And for our project, we identified underutilized upper story space in a portion of the commercial downtown, which is shown in red on the map here, and explored opportunities for converting these spaces to year-round residences.
So we split our project up into three main objectives. First, we created an inventory of existing upper story space. This included information such as utilization details and square footage numbers. Additionally, we engaged stakeholders and experts to understand possible barriers and opportunities to these types of conversions. And finally, we explored similar efforts in other communities. In creating our inventory, we had to look to a number of different sources to gather our data, as there was no single source that had everything we were looking for. So we used the town's GIS maps to gather parcel identification numbers, physical addresses, and ownership information. And we used the assessor's database to learn about whether spaces were finished or unfinished, and to get square footage numbers. And finally, we got out on foot and walked around the downtown with people who were pretty knowledgeable of the area, as well as on our own, to learn about the specific utilization of each floor of every building and to verify information that we had gathered from our digital sources. In the completion of our second objective, we conducted 15 interviews with a number of different people. 7 of these interviews were with property and business stakeholders, such as owners and managers. An additional 3 were with town officials, and 5 were with related experts, such as people involved with nonprofits on the island. The goal of these interviews was to learn a couple of different things, such as the possible impacts of conversion on business operations, as well as the owners. Additionally, we wanted to learn about the cost and feasibility of converting different types of spaces and possible incentive and support programs that could help offset some of those costs. Additionally, we attended a number of different events throughout our time here. We went to a presentation that was held by who was it? It was Housing Nantucket, sorry. Housing Nantucket, their unveiling of their 2025 housing needs assessment, and a couple of affordable housing trust meetings, and the special town meeting that talked about short-term rentals. In looking at similar efforts in other communities, we interviewed 3 off-island experts. Most notably, we discussed the rehabilitation of an underutilized mill building in Lawrence, Massachusetts, with somebody who is heavily involved in that. It can be seen in the image here. And we spoke with the municipal housing director for the town of Vail, Colorado, to learn about how they've been tackling the housing crisis out there, as there are a number of similarities that can be drawn between Vail and Nantucket, such as the high rate of tourism and extremely high home prices.
Here are some of our major findings from our research. We found that majority of second story spaces are currently being utilized as shown on this graph here, with only a small percentage of those spaces being unutilized. Additionally, we found that there was very little data for the utilization of third story spaces. We knew these spaces existed, it's just there wasn't any public data on how they were being used. Going into the specifics of the utilization on each floor, we split it into 5 broad categories. Commercial, which includes retail, offices, and restaurants. Hotels. Cultural, which includes museums, theaters, event spaces, and public spaces. Housing, or they are empty and they are not currently being utilized. We show what each building, each type of utilization for each unit on the map on the right, as well as 2 pie charts that explain the percentage of each of the types of utilizations. Utilization by unit in the middle and utilization by area on the left. We found that 30% of the units were on second story spaces were used for commercial use, with 24% being used for housing. However, if you look at the left pie chart here, when calculating for square footage, you find a more equal distribution among housing, commercial, and cultural. As for third story spaces, of the units we could find data for, which is the colored parts on the pie chart here, we found that 50% of the units are used for housing, with them taking up 30% of the gross area. This, along with the large amount of space that hotels make up, mean that in both area and number of units, majority of them are used for residents of some form. If you would like to look into the more specifics of our findings on utilization, there are more details in our full report. Moving on to constraints, as you can see on the maps here, we found that majority of the unfinished spaces in our research area were on third stories, most likely because a lot of them are attic spaces. When it comes, finished and unfinished spaces have lots of pros and cons when it comes to conversion, with unfinished spaces being better if a lot of construction would otherwise be involved. However, if a finished space may be better if very small amount of renovations are required. Moving on to concerns that many stakeholders had. Business and property owners' primary concern when talking to them was financial, whether that be the upfront cost of conversion, the loss of money if they need to shut down temporarily during conversion, or the risks that come from having a tenant living upstairs. For example, if the tenant were to set off the fire alarm, everyone in the building would need to be evacuated, and that could result in loss of sales. Going into more about converting existing housing, many of the spaces are short-term rentals, which have a large revenue difference as compared to year-round housing. This means that there is very little incentive for people to actually make that conversion to year-round open housing. Finally, a lot of businesses feel obligated to provide housing for their employees. So if they were to convert their upper story space into housing, they'd be more incentivized to turn it into employee housing as opposed to general open year-round housing.
Some of the major determinations we were able to make based on our findings are that most second-story space is already utilized. This went against our initial expectations going into this project. Also, many second-story spaces are already used for housing, and some of the ones we were able to determine the type of were short-term rentals. Additionally, uses of third-story spaces are still relatively unknown to us. We weren't able to get as much information on those as compared to second stories, and the biggest barrier that seemed to come up often in our interviews is the cost of converting these spaces. Our recommendations to the Nantucket Housing Department include exploring and creating financial incentives, whether this is looking at the applicability of existing incentives such as historic rehabilitation tax credits, or creating new local level incentives that are more geared towards projects like this. We also recommend exploring short-term rental conversions. This would involve quantifying the amount of short-term rentals there are in the downtown area and gathering community opinions on their conversion. We also recommend identifying opportunities for a pilot project. This would involve finding an owner who's willing to work through a lot of unknowns, but it would serve as a showcase of a renovation. Next, we recommend gathering utilization information for the remaining third stories that we were able to get utilization information for to see if there's any opportunities for conversion there. And finally, we recommend expanding research to additional areas, whether it's the outer areas of downtown that we did not look at or other areas of the island, such as the commercial mid-island zone. A full list of our recommendations can be found in our full report. Finally, we'd like to thank Dylan at the Nantucket Housing Department and our advisors, Dominic Goulding and Seth Tuller, for their advice and guidance throughout our project. The Athenaeum, the town of Nantucket, and Remain for providing us workspaces. The Nantucket Yacht Club for providing us accommodations for our time here. And Young's Bicycle Shop for lending us bikes to use.
And thank you all for listening. Are there any questions?
Hey guys, great presentation. I have a question which speaks to, you spoke about how you did research on looking at other communities. Vale and Lawrence were the two that you mentioned. And I think as your presentation shows, we're pretty constrained in the downtown area in terms of the second and tertiary floors. But I think that there are things that can probably be extrapolated out to other areas of the island potentially. So my question really is, I'm curious if you could speak a little bit more about how or whether Nantucket is distinct from the other places you've spoken to in terms of potential barriers or opportunities, like where there was opportunity in those other communities.
Yeah, so in discussion with Vale, and we also did some research looking in Aspen, and some other like tourist heavy communities. There are actually a lot of similarities. Land is a big concern in Vale. They're in this little valley, so they're in a similar situation. It's not as severe as being on an island, but it's close. So there are other places that I think other tourist heavy places have a lot of similar issues in terms of the home prices, as well as just the fact that you have the people who are coming in here and purchasing housing that are just in a completely kind of different category of existence. And that kind of just sets the market into these two really separate things that are happening. So that's seen elsewhere in other tourist heavy places. Yeah, I think that is a big thing. Other sorts of conversions of these sorts of upper story spaces. We had trouble finding examples of smaller conversions like what we're looking at here. Examples such as the Lawrence Duck Mill and other kind of larger projects that result in multiple hundreds of units being created at a time are a lot more common to be talked about online. But I know even from my community where I grew up, they had apartments above all of the second story shops there. So there are definitely other smaller communities where this is happening, but it's just very hard to find, people talking about it.
That's great. And I think what it says to me is that obviously, Nantucket is a very particular place, but that the challenges can be universal or broad, and that, it's about finding innovative ways, which I think you guys have given us a path to. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for all of your help.
Have any other questions from the audience? Questions online, Seth?
Nope. But I'm curious if you want to say a little bit more about some of these incentive programs that you discovered and what the opportunities might be with those. You just mentioned them really briefly.
Yeah, you can.
So there are a number of existing incentives that target many different types of conversions, but again, a lot of these are geared towards larger scale projects. So this was one of the reasons why we extended that suggestion to creating programs here that would be able to help with these smaller programs. The historic rehabilitation tax credits that Jacob mentioned is a statewide program, I believe. It's from the state. And so you're competing with funding for projects such as, I believe, the Lawrence Duck Mill used the historic rehabilitation tax credits to get possibly up to, millions of dollars. In Nantucket, there are already some programs that the housing department works on that help with maintaining year-round housing, such as the Lease to Locals program, which I guess Dylan could probably speak on better than we could. And they also have programs to help, let's see.
Year-round deed restrictions.
Yeah, so they're launching a program that would provide deed restrictions for housing. So that would essentially allow for a payment to a homeowner in exchange for a restriction on a deed requiring year-round occupancy. So there are programs that exist. We're hoping to find, or our suggestions, we're hoping to point towards looking at ways to specifically encourage these types of conversions due to the high cost involved in all of the construction. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? You're off the hook, team. Maybe. Jack, Ella, Mason, going to talk to us about the work they've been doing with the Mariah Mitchell.
Bear with me, guys. I always lose the thing for sharing the screen. Got it. And then I gotta go over here and click. So try to click on that. Good, okay. Thanks.
All right. Hi, I'm Jack.
I'm Ella.
And I'm Mason, and this is our project on developing a database and outreach strategy for the Mariah Mitchell Association camps. So to talk about the Mariah Mitchell Association, it's very important to talk about first who Mariah Mitchell was. Born in Nantucket in 1818, she's known as one of America's first female astronomers. In 1847, she discovered Miss Mitchell's comet, which is one of the first big accomplishments of Mariah Mitchell, despite becoming a leading woman in her industry at the time. She also was one of the first female professors at Vassar College, and also the first professor of astrology at the college as well. Additionally, Mariah Mitchell was known as a lifelong educator for her teachings throughout the time.
Didn't work.
Clicked off it.
It's weird. Try it again. Here.
So the Mariah Mitchell Association was founded to honor Mariah Mitchell's legacy in 1902. Today, they honor the phrase learning by doing, which they honor through their many summer camps that they run, which we're going to talk about, but also their discovery classes, and in addition, the internships which they provide many college students throughout the year. The opportunity to really get into the industry and get into the environment and learn about what they're dealing with by experiencing it with their hands and by getting hands-on and learning by doing. But to talk about the Mariah Mitchell Association and the camp alumni database, it's first important to talk about summer camps and what they provide those who attend them. Historically, summer camps are known for youth development through developing important life skills such as social skills, teamwork, problem solving, and really getting kids ready to kind of experience the work and future academic environment where you're gonna have to work with people and develop your skills for later on in life with like a family or friends and such. Additionally, what's important about summer camps too is that it also inspires a lot of personal interests. For example, many that attend the Mariah Mitchell's environmental camp go on to have future passions in biodiversity and in the environment. Additionally, it's important to understand different types of camps. I mean, for example, the Mariah Mitchell Association's environmental camp, there's also STEM camps and sports camps, which are also used. But it's also important to understand day camp and overnight camp. Speaking with the executive director of Mariah Mitchell Association, Joanna, she's already implementing the strategy of using the overnight camp to further develop the relationship and interest which those gain from the MMA summer camps.
So building off of what Jack was saying, we worked with the MMA to develop one overarching goal, which was to create an alumni network that the MMA could utilize after we leave the island. And with that, we focused on three main objectives. The first being to create a camp alumni database of former campers who are over the age of 18 from the paper records available. The second being to collect alumni recollections from former campers to try to understand the true impact of camp. And then the last being to create future methods for the MMA to develop their camp alumni network after we are gone. After developing those goals and objectives, we asked ourselves more of an overarching question: why does an alumni network matter to an organization such as the MMA? And it matters for three main reasons. The first being volunteerism. By creating an alumni network, the MMA can utilize those former campers to get them to participate in MMA events and camp events. The next being alumni donations. At the moment, these former campers are an untargeted group of donors, and by creating a camp alumni network, these former campers are more likely to support the MMA. And then the last being to support or to create a support network. A camp alumni network gives former campers an opportunity to reconnect, to share stories, share memories, and other recollections, all of which strengthen the MMA community. So the first step in this process was to build the alumni database. And with that, we asked ourselves, why did we want to build this database? We were given a series of records from the MMA that contained paper registration files of campers from a series of different years. And after going through the different files, we noticed a few major points. The first being that a lot of the paper records were incomplete or lacking certain aspects of data. And then the second being that the current customer relationship management tool that the MMA utilizes does not contain campers before 2018. So with that in mind, we wanted to consolidate all of this into one spreadsheet that the MMA could utilize outside of their CRM tool. So what we did is we took the paper registration forms from the years 2000 to 2004, 2010, 2018 to 2019, and 2022, and we were able to digitize them and consolidate them into one Excel spreadsheet. And in that database, we included information from the registration files such as address, parent and guardian name, on an off-island address, emails, and phone numbers. And we were able to enter 1,300 unique individual names. The second part of this was updating the contact information. After consolidating everything into one spreadsheet, we noticed that a lot of the information was out of date, specifically the emails and the phone numbers, which were crucial to us to try to contact these people to get them to join the MMA Camp Alumni Network. So how we tried to go around this was we wanted to utilize a multi-step search strategy to try to find up-to-date contact information. The first thing we did was we went to Google and social media, entering that person's full name and their town that they listed on their registration form, trying to find any public profiles that we could message them on. The second being to utilize white pages, trying to find any up-to-date emails or phone numbers. And then the last being going to Zillow to try to understand if they changed residency from when they registered. Simultaneously, we consulted the MMA staff and utilized their internal staff knowledge to try to recognize any former campers from the database. First, they helped us flag familiar campers that they recognized. They also were able to provide additional information about those campers. They also gave us notes on their residency, including if they were on island, off island, or even seasonal visitors. And then the last, sometimes MMA staff were able to direct us to these campers if they were working on island or even giving us their full contact information, which was extremely helpful.
So yeah, now looking more back at the database, we're going to kind of go over the problems. So as Ella stated before, there was definitely some fragmented parts of the records that we received. First, they were stored across multiple binders and multiple locations, meaning that we first had to go find those, which was a little bit of a challenge. Second, before that, so they're also inconsistent and incomplete, meaning that some of the forms contained full addresses when some of them only contained partial addresses, which we later had to try and search up. And finally, before 2010, there were rarely any email addresses listed. So this means we had to go then search in their CRM to find the email addresses if applicable, or just not even find them at all, which made it hard to reach out to those older campers individually. So looking at sort of the metrics towards the database. So as Ella said, we mentioned, or as Ella mentioned, we entered over 1,300 total campers, which 498 of those had email addresses. And after then emailing all of them, we found out that only 200 were actually usable. So this also highlights how there was a significant gap in data, which also pushes for why real-time data collection and management should be part of the MMA.
So the next step of this process was trying to reach more people outside of the registration forms we had. We really wanted to invite campers from the entirety of MMA camps to join our camp alumni network. So this includes trying to reach people from the 80s all the way to the present day. So we created a camp alumni network form to invite alumni to voluntarily join it. And we wanted to advertise this to the greater population. And we did so with two main outreach strategies. The first being digital outreach. This included sending an email to the current MMA member email alias, which advertised our Camp Alumni Network form, which was able to reach 9,000 members. The second being to advertise on the MMA's digital newsletter called the e-Comment. The next was creating a Facebook group specifically for the Camp Alumni Network. And then the last being to advertise our Camp Alumni Network on MMA social media pages, including their Instagram and their Facebook. The second part of this outreach strategy was direct outreach. Through direct outreach, we messaged people through individual text messages, individual emails, individual LinkedIn messages, and lastly, individual phone calls. And with the text messages, emails, and phone calls, we use all that information from the paper registration forms we had and the database that we created.
All right, and then talking more specifically about those outreach results. So just looking at all the different outreach channels. So as Ella stated, the first email and membership alias, we reached 9,000 of the members. Now looking at the social medias, which we contacted through Instagram and Facebook with ads and posts, we reached around 3,000 to 5,000 followers, depending on the account. Next, looking at the Facebook group, it currently has 0 followers, but hopefully that will change soon. Next, we're going to look at the website page, which we are unsure about how many people that reached just due to no statistics on the website. Then looking at individual emails. So we sent around 200 individual emails from those emails that we gathered through Flowdesk and the paper records. And then finally, we sent around 1,100 individual texts. So yeah, definitely a lengthy process. Overall, we only received 8 responses. Yeah. So this was definitely a big shock to the staff and also us and our advisors going into this project. We've kind of theorized a little bit about why, and I think part of it has to do with the amount of text and emails that people get while just on their phone. And also, a lot of the residents are off island right now, so a lot of the people aren't even going to see any of this. So again, this shows why broad outreach alone is ineffective, but it also shows how personal connection also includes, it correlates to highest engagement with those campers.
The last step of this process was collecting alumni recollections. And the reason why we really wanted to interview these alumni was to collect personal stories to understand the meaning and impact behind MMA camps and how it affected them in their current lives. And in order to do so, we reached alumni by contacting them through email as well as through staff referrals that we were given. And then we were able to set up individual phone calls with those former campers to schedule a time to discuss why they think MMA camps made an impact in their lives.
All right, so looking more at our interview. So even though we did have a very small amount of responses, we did get one interview that gave us great insight up to why MMA has such power as an organization to shape individuals' lives. So through this interview, we gained insight that hands-on learning does spark an interest, not only with college, but their career, and sort of influences how they're going to move on in their life. It also, we also learned that peer interaction does build confidence. So whether it's engaging with the staff or the peers, it shows communication and sort of confidence, not only with science, but with just organization and the people alone. We also found out that continued involvement with the MMA does deepen connection. So our interviewee, she was a former camp Nantucket resident, and then she also came back to intern at the MMA. So through this, we realized when comparing to a 2023 project that a former WPI group did at the MMA, focusing on interns, that those who are more deeply connected with the MMA are most likely to come back. So we came out with alumni with stronger previous involvements are more receptive to outreach, and they're also more likely to stay connected. So the key takeaway is that meaningful camp experiences do highlight these engagements and make people want to reach back out. Now we're going to look at the recommendations for the Mariah Mitchell Association. So this first one is going to focus more specifically on the database. So our first recommendation is to continue verifying and expanding the database. So what this means is standardizing collection data, what information goes on the form, and just making sure that's consistent throughout the whole years to come. This also means updating annually, so make sure that all the campers are in there and it stays consistent. The second recommendation is going to be launch the alumni survey. So earlier on this project, we developed an alumni survey that asked more broad questions about how the Mariah Mitchell Association impacted their career and just their life as a whole. So once the list grows, we're going to send that out and hopefully get some more rich data to use as marketing material and just better strengthen why the MMA has such impact. And you can also consider incentives like merch, raffles, food, whatever gets people to fill out the form, I guess. Bam. Okay. Last one is implementing a formal outreach protocol. So what this means is standardizing templates, using timelines and tracking just to make sure that it stays consistent throughout all the campers. All right, now moving on, this is more of the alumni engagement aspect of the project. So our first recommendation is just to build connections early. So what this means is that staff and counselors already have such a big part in how the MMA functions and building those connections with the children. So just making sure that those remain consistent and those happen throughout all the years. The next one is to begin communication cycle about the alumni project before, during, and after camp. So what this means is getting parents to sign up their children for the alumni network and just making sure that they know about the alumni network and not waiting years after until they're actually out of camp. Third, we're going to recognize and highlight alumni stories. So similar to what we interviewed with our interviewee, we're just going to make sure that her information about why Camp Matter to her gets out there and shows other people that they can also share their story and make other people feel connected as they did. And finally, we're just going to host some alumni reunion events. So next summer in August of 2026, there is a planned alumni reunion event. So we're hoping that more people will go to that. And we could also offer like other volunteers days, internships, like mentors, just any sort of networking to show how that the MMA can reconnect with each other.
So in summary of what we achieved in our project, initially, we were able to create the first camper alumni database for the Mariah Mitchell Association with around 1,300 members in the database. Additionally, too, we are able to develop an outreach and connection protocol for the organization to boost their engagement, but also so that they can continue to do this while we're gone after we've left the project and returned back to Worcester Polytechnic Institute at the end of this week. And the third thing too, which we were able to do, was we're able to make sure that there's a method and like a plan in place to deliver the certain steps of this camp alumni database and continue to move on with the project, especially when we're gone, which I talked about before, but more so a more detailed map and focus. But it's also important to understand why these certain aspects matter. Initially creating the database, although it is not a finished product, is definitely a template which can be built upon and successfully be built up to allow the organization to really show to their members why camp matters and what it can create for them. But additionally, too, what's important is now we've learned from our outreach approach where to kind of contact people at now, either whether it be directly or through social media, but also like it's important to understand too that direct contact definitely had much more promising results than the initial broad, more very vast social media outreach, which we initially did.
And lastly, we would like to thank everyone at the MMA, especially Joanna Roach, who is the MMA Executive Director, as well as all of the amazing staff and interns at the MMA who assisted us during this project and for their immense support. Thank you for listening, and any questions?
Any questions from the audience?
So I'm Laura Friedman. I'm the operations manager at Mariah Mitchell. Thank you. I mean, you really built this from, just a little seed of an idea. I think that all your hard work will pay off when we have that first alumni picnic. Because face-to-face connection, I just think it's going to be great for people to say, oh, I haven't seen you since we were 10 and, you know, looking at the fiddler crabs or wherever you are. So thank you for all your hard work. I wish you had gotten more responses, but I was so happy you got to talk to Celia. So, all right. And stay around for a picture because I want to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, do we have any questions online?
No.
I would just like to sort of make a comment. I mean, I think we were all surprised at the lack of response. I think you got a good strategy to try and get more response. Maybe I was dozing off, I don't know, but did I miss some of the discussion about the difference between day camps and overnight camps and what you think might be going on there in some regard in terms of engagement and social?
Yeah, so to clarify that, we looked at a couple sources that talked about the difference between day camp experience and overnight or residential camp experiences. And we noticed that a lot more overnight camps have stronger alumni programs where alumni come back to either help campers move in or they decorate the camp, things like that. And we think that based on the sources, we think that's due to more connectedness, having that overnight experience, being in the same place with a bunch of campers and being in that location for so long. It really builds a stronger emotional connection. Day camps can do the same, but based on the sources that we read, it's a bit more challenging for day camps to create that same effect.
Yeah, and additionally, so with the internship project in 2023, those interns lived overnight at the Mariah Mitchell Association. They spent probably too much time together. They spent the whole summer together, and that sort of built that sort of connectiveness within the interns. And they received in 2023 a lot of responses. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, we have the team that's been working with the Nantucket Fire Department. So Koki, Jackson, Sam, and Patrick, if you would come up, that'd be great. And they've been working with Chief Cranston, Deputy Chief Esposito is here. And they were also working with Deputy Chief Vermosi. And I think Officer Ramos in the back there, who was very helpful along the way too.
The fifth one, I finally get it going.
All good? Good. Okay, you can hear me. Hello, everyone. I'm Patrick. I'm Jackson. I'm Koki. I'm Sam. And this is our presentation on hydrant mapping on Nantucket. All right, so first we'll start with the importance of water sources on the island. So this map here is the current hydrant layout that is in the town GIS. So as you can see, the majority of hydrants are in the, of course, more densely populated of the area. So you got town and mid-island in the center, you got Sconset on the right, and then Madigan on the left. And as you can see, though, that leaves a lot of the island, though, still unprotected from hydrants, which causes prolonged fires and increased damages in those areas, especially in more rural ones, such as the example on the right. That's an image of the fire that occurred at 19 East Tristram Avenue in 2022, which is marked on the map. Let's see. Yep, there it is, by that orange circle. So over here, what happened was an 8,000 square foot home caught fire, and the closest hydrant that they could access to it was over a mile away, over here on Cliff Road. Okay, it did pop up. Sorry, just making sure the animations worked. So with it being over a mile away, they had to shuttle water using water tankers between them, which took firefighters away from actively dousing the fire to do the shuttling operations. So overall, though, the fire did end up spreading to 3 different buildings, and it took a total of 6 total hours to finally get it under control. And the reason I'm bringing the points of bringing this up is that it just shows the importance of making sure that the NFD has accurate locations regarding these hydrants, as every extra second spent either trying to find one or using one that's not as close as one could be, just increases the risk of damage that can be caused. Yeah, sorry. All right, so in this current GIS map, there you go. All right, in this current GIS map, there are 592 hydrants currently listed. Comparatively, though, Wanacom, the Wanacom Water Company, sorry, has 710 in their database, and Wanacom is responsible for maintaining all the municipal hydrants on the island as they control the water lines. So so there's this number discrepancy that exists because currently the town GIS has not been updated since 2020. So that means that any hydrant that has been installed in the last 5 years does not currently show up, as or ones that have been moved or ones that have been removed. And so changes that have been made also don't show up from the last 5 years. And so that results in the current map being outdated.
Yeah. All right. So why is Town GIS so important to the NFD? And this is because of the nature of the emergency response application that the NFD uses called BRICS. It is an active response and displays their locations on the map, allowing navigation. And additionally, it displays the location of all the hydrants on the island. And this is the important part of the Town GIS. This map directly ported from Town GIS. So Town GIS being outdated also means that the map that firefighters use on the ground is also outdated. So this leads to our goal. Due to the Town GIS and BRICS being outdated, this project aimed to improve the NFD's access to water sources in an emergency by verifying, updating, and synchronizing the current hydrant data in GIS. All right, so in order to achieve our goals, we took several steps. First, we conducted interviews with pertinent parties such as the NFD, the Wanacom Water Company, and the Town GIS Management in order to gather data and get a general overview of what's going on the island and the current situation. Then, based on these interviews and the data we were provided by them, we created a preliminary map using Google Maps in order to map out where the general area of the hydrants are and to divide the island into different parts for efficient data collection. Then we gather data in the field using like a GS18 GPS system, which is the same equipment Wanacom uses to collect their data in order to ensure accuracy. Finally, we create our own GIS map and perform data analysis on it. In short, this is the updated, this is the data we got in total. In total, we geolocated 814 hydrants on the island, and 473 were accurately labeled in GIS. However, 36 were non-existent on the ground, but labeled in GIS. 67 were moved from their locations labeled in GIS, typically around 100 to 200 feet off. And 274 hydrants existed on the ground, but were not labeled on GIS. We also had 16 hydrants that were labeled on GIS that we were unable to verify because they were inaccessible in some way. The pie chart simplifies our findings. The inaccurate label represents all hydrants, all the data points that we collected that were different compared to GIS, which includes hydrants that were not in GIS, hydrants that were moved, and hydrants that were removed. Overall, 44% of the data points that we collected were deferred compared to Town GIS.
To show the data that we collected, we decided to split the island into 5 different sections and to show the hydrant data in each of these sections. The first section we're going to cover is Nantucket. Each of these dots represents the location of a hydrant. An exception, the yellow dots represent hydrants that were removed from that location and are not there anymore. The green dots represent hydrants that were accurately marked in GIS. The orange dots represent hydrants that were moved, and the red dots represent hydrants that were unmapped in GIS. In Nantucket, there were a total of 65 hydrants that we collected, and of these 65 hydrants, 50 of them were accurately mapped in GIS. This pie chart shows the ratio between the accurate and the inaccurate hydrants. 29% of the hydrant data is different from the GIS data. The inaccurate data represents any hydrant that was not accurately mapped in GIS. An area of note
is that we were able to go to the Department of Public Works parking lot and the dump to collect the hydrant data there with the help of the DPW. So we very much appreciate that. The next section we covered was north of town by Cliff Road. We found a total of 155 hydrants here, and of these hydrants, 106 of them were accurately mapped, and 34% of the hydrants here were inaccurately mapped in GIS. We also found a stretch of hydrants by the Strait Wharf, which is around the Steamship Authority area, that were unmapped in GIS. The largest section we covered was south of town near Hummock Pond Road. There were 289 total hydrants here, and of these hydrants, only 177 of them were accurately mapped, and 42% of these hydrants were inaccurate. We wanted to point out that this whole stretch is all Hummock Pond Road, and all of these hydrants were not mapped in GIS. The second biggest section we covered was east of town by the airport. We were able to find a total of 206 hydrants here, and only 96 of them were accurately mapped, and 56% of the hydrants near the airport were inaccurately mapped. All of Matacasham Road, thank you, Matacasham Valley Road, Cornwall Ave, and Lovers Lane, all of that area was not mapped by GIS. Mark Willett, the director of Wanacommet, pointed this area out to us, and we were able to go there and get this data for him. And the last section we covered was Sconset. And here, there was a total of 99 hydrants, and of these hydrants, only 44 of them were accurately mapped, leading to 56% of the hydrants being inaccurate. The land around Low Beach Road was the big portion of the hydrants that were not mapped in GIS.
Dry hydrants are another important tool for fire protection. They allow firefighters to draft from water sources like cisterns, pools, or ponds when a pressurized wet hydrant isn't available. Unfortunately, the dry hydrant data has been fragmented over time and some information was lost. On this map, the blue squares show the 23 dry hydrants we located. Notice that most of them don't have a wet hydrant nearby, which means they're vital for fire suppression in these areas. One challenge we noticed during data collection was obstructed hydrants. These can waste valuable time in an emergency or even make a hydrant unusable. We documented each instance and took photos of the obstructions. Issues included vegetation, fences, sometimes dumpsters. In some cases, the hydrant was partially buried, blocking access to the outlets. These conditions highlight the importance of regular maintenance and clear access. We also conducted a spatial analysis to understand hydrant coverage and identify buildings without water access. This builds on a previous WPI project from 2021. Here's the original map. The blue areas show a 1,000-foot radius placed around each hydrant, and the yellow diamonds mark a building not serviced by a hydrant. With the updated hydrant map, coverage improved, especially in Surfside near the airport and along Hummock Pond Road. Our findings put together lead us to make a few recommendations to the fire department. First, it should use our updated hydrant map in bricks. Second, it should conduct outreach to homeowners to encourage them, if they have a dry hydrant, to get them tested regularly. Third, they should create a database for dry hydrants. And fourth, they should implement a way for relevant parties to be notified if a hydrant is changed or needs maintenance.
All right, so now on to town recommendations regarding the Computerized Maintenance Management System, or CMMS for short. So the CMMS is a new system that is currently being developed by the town that will serve as a work scheduling and management tool. It will provide information and storage for asset data such as location, condition, maintenance history, and then will then allow asset analysis of life cycle. Let's see, where is it at? And then logging and reporting of that performance management. So those kind of functionalities. And it will also be able to integrate with ArcGIS to allow mapping of that data. And it's for this initial development of it, it is only being implemented for Wanacom and the sewer department. So since it is not yet finalized, we have some recommendations regarding how the CMS will operate and how hydrant data can be utilized by that system. All right, so first off, we recommend that any department that wants to get involved with the CMS, if you're hearing it for the first time here or have heard it before, should get involved, including the NFD, because asset could mean something as simple as, it could be something as big as a vehicle, it could be a hydrant, it could be a valve on a truck. So there's a lot of usability with it that can be for information that can be stored. Next, there needs to be editing permissions to be established so that only the department that is responsible for that asset should be able to edit that asset. So you wouldn't want someone accidentally changing the information that you input in. So that needs to be set up as well to protect your data and the quality of it. Additionally, hydrant data fields need to be finalized so that it can interact reliably with ArcGIS to ensure that those locations will be accurate. Also, we recommend that the CMMS have an update frequency for its data so that edits that are made have some time to be verified before they get into the before they get finalized so that everyone can see them. And then lastly, for 4 and 5, these are recommendations for how the CMS, who will have the permissions in the CMS to edit the hydrant data. So we recommend that Wanacom be responsible for regular hydrants or ones connected to the town's municipal water supply. And then, of course, the NFD would be responsible for dry hydrants as they have to manually test those to get the data for them.
Lastly, we'd like to thank all the people that we've worked with in our 7 weeks here. More specifically, the Nantucket Fire Department for being great help and great advice and hearing the data we've collected and giving comments on it. And also Mark Willett, Nathan Porter, Chuck Larson for being viable people to interview. They were very important for us and we appreciate that. And everyone else on this list for assisting us whenever we needed it for any info, anytime.
We are now open for questions.
Oh, I don't know if anybody has any questions, like Deputy Chief Esposito has.
No questions necessarily. I'm Nick Esposito, one of the deputy fire chiefs. I want to thank you guys for this project. It's not very exciting to most, the back of the house stuff, but this is very important. It's vital to the island. And you can see, I think a lot of the gaps, just to kind of speak to them, is a product of the growth on the island. It's not necessarily because nobody wanted to keep track of anything. It just became difficult over time with the rate of growth and the lack of maybe resources in some of the departments. But this project's really going to help us out a lot from this point moving forward, and it's definitely valuable. And so on behalf of Chief Cranston and the rest of the department, we want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A quick question, it's a small one. The picture of the buried fire hydrant, is that from like those instances, are those private homeowners who are doing like landscaping or work or just beautification? Like, what did you see a reason for that?
They're not all. We found some just on the side of the road. I found one on Cliff Road. It's theorized that we heard a theory that from plowing, like some sand or debris could push up on the side of the road. It could be from landscaping, stuff like that. But the important thing is that those hydrants need to be maintained. And yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, how many instances do we find of obstructed? Do we know?
Do we have any other questions?
20 something.
20 something, okay.
Hi, thank you. This was an amazing amount of data. I have a question about residents in the neighborhoods where these hydrants exist. Is there any opportunity for community engagement, not only in tracking where fire hydrants are or where they should be, or a connection to housing development, where there's a need for new hydrants as there's more housing being built? I'm just wondering sort of about connections with the actual people who live in the area?
I would say the biggest thing for community engagement is like homeowners with dry hydrants, because they need to contact the fire department to get them tested. So we recommended, one of our other recommendations was the community outreach to get those tested. So there's more awareness and involvement to get them tested regularly.
Thank you.
Can you come to the mic? Yeah.
Is the GIS something that's accessible by a Nantucket resident, or is it published by the fire department or the town? And where you came up with the percentages, say in Sconset, where 44% of the hydrants are non-identifiable, is this going to become a town program that's going to be part of the Wanacoma Water Company, fire department, and others, so that it can be addressed? Because as someone who's very related in some way to like someone's house burning down, I think a lot of people are frightened. Like, what if it happens to me?
Sure. Just easier that I explained than the guys. The GIS information is online. If you Google Nantucket GIS, click the link, and then there's a lot of different layers on the right-hand side. There is a hydrant layer. The color doesn't push up so well, so make sure it's pushed all the way up. Currently, it's the old GIS layer that the gentleman spoke of. So moving forward, as we get that information uploaded into the system, it will populate those hydrants that were not accounted for before. And we're working on that now. So this is the first step to that.
What is a dry hydrant?
So a wet hydrant is pressurized by the water main, and a dry hydrant is like just a pipe connected to a water source, like a well or a pool, and the truck itself would pump the water up from that source. And typically the minimum is like 750 gallons per minute for 10 minutes. So about 7,500 gallon tank is the minimum.
Was that a good answer? You got it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so they don't look like traditional hydrants, they're like that photo showed, or they could be just a pipe.
And homeowners put dry hydrants and cisterns in because they get a reduction on their home insurance.
That too.
So the team did a lot of work. All the teams did a lot of work. These guys were all over the island, courtesy of Young's Bicycle. They put a lot of miles on those bikes, Harvey.
Yeah, and a couple scratches, unfortunately, but
But they couldn't have done it without the bikes. So we appreciate that. Seth, I don't know if you can pull up my outro slide. Otherwise, I will try and remember who I need to thank.
Got it.
I thank all of you for coming today. I thank those of you that were online. I thank all the students for all their marvelous work, and all the sponsors who helped them conduct their project. Obviously, I'm thankful to my colleague Seth for working with me and the teams this term. But we have lots of other people to thank. Oh, he was able to put it up. So the Nantucket Yacht Club, I thank from all of us for providing housing for the students, as they've done for the last 5 or 6 years. Young's Bicycle Shop, as I say, for providing not just the team that went all over the island looking at hydrants, but everyone else gets a bike too. And we were very grateful for that. We don't allow students to bring cars to the island. There's already too many cars on the island. And there's nowhere to park them down by the yacht club anyway. So much to the chagrin of many of our students, we encourage them to ride their bikes in all weathers and so forth. I'd like to thank Remain. The ladies Remain left already, but Remain always helps us in a variety of ways. One of which being the underwriting the scavenger hunt that the teams all engage in when they arrive on the island. So I'd like to thank another Young, Emma Young, for organising that scavenger hunt as well. The Nantucket Historical Association and the Shipwreck Museum are both very gracious in giving us access to the museum. Tony's over in on the edge there. Tony did a wonderful tour of the Shipwreck Museum for us, as he's done in past years, so we really appreciate that. The Nantucket Community School and the Athenaeum gave us room for some of the teams to work. It's always an issue on Nantucket. We show up with 18 or 24 students, and it's always a problem knowing where to put them for workspace. So we appreciate the community school and the Nantucket Athenaeum for giving a couple of our teams space to work in. The Nantucket High School, I'd like to thank them for not only providing access for the Our House team to get access to those students, but also the high school has very generously in the last many years provided access to the gym, the weight room and so forth for our students. It's always an issue whenever we go in the world. There are two things students seem to get most worked up about wherever we go, and Seth can confirm this. One is, are they going to have decent internet access? And the second is, where are we going to be able to lift weights? So we have to try and cater to that, and we're thankful that the high school helps us do that. Finally, I'd like to thank Our House. They provided a dinner for a number of students this year, which is something they've done in the last year and hope they'll do in the future. It's an opportunity for our students to meet some of the teens from the high school, and that's very generous of them for doing that. And then finally, NCTV. I think Jean Carl's in the back there doing the magic, and Frank was here earlier. So we appreciate them for making this all possible. So again, thank you for joining us. The presentations and the students' final reports will all be available on the Nantucket Project Center website. Seth, if you can scroll back one on that slide.
Scroll back.
Go up. Up, back, reverse.
There is no.
There we go. If anybody wants to look at the final reports and the presentations, I'll provide links there to this presentation, the recording. The slides will be there, as will their copies of their full report. But it will take us a couple of days, so don't look there until probably the weekend, because it will take that long to finish everything up. Again, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Seth, do you have a comment?
I do. Just a couple last ones. I especially want to thank John Carl and Frank. They did some extra work, which a lot of you saw at the beginning, was the video of congratulations and thanks to Dominic. And I just want to say that it's one more time to thank you to Dominic for the last 15 years or so of being the center director here. And I also just want to add a couple of things. Well, two other things is I love my job, right? I love this job at WPI because personally, I get to come to these great places like Nantucket or Thailand or India or the White Mountains Glacier National Park. And I'm really looking forward to spending more time here in Nantucket, taking over as center director from Dominic. But what I really love about this job is what I see with the students. I mean, they come into the first day of class, right? You guys don't know anything about what you're doing. You give a little bit of information about a project. We say, you have to figure out what you're doing. It's very open-ended. And they do it. And after 7 weeks of preparation, which Dominic taught the class, and then 7 weeks or 8 weeks here on site, they produce these really wonderful projects, right? And they work really hard at it. And so I really enjoy seeing that, and I really appreciate it. So I just want to say thank you also to the students for that. So thank you.
Students all want to gather at the front here. We need a team photo. Oh, good. See you. Glad you could join us.
Just really impressed with me and I were just talking about pictures. It's been.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Brilliant. And a lot of it is the from you.
Yeah, it's always amazing.
These is not seniors or juniors.
They're all juniors. There's a lot of projects we do now.